So I used to bake all the time on my personal Instagram. I got rid of my personal Instagram. So guess who gets to watch me bake now? You. What are we baking? Brownies. Want to see the recipe? Okay. Now before we start, I know you're probably like, my grandma makes the best brownies. My mom's brownies are awesome. But honey, you need to try these brownies first. I have been baking these for like 10 plus years, and they are the richest, most delicious, chocolatey infused brownies you have ever tasted in your life. So let's go. So we're gonna start by mixing together a pound of chocolate and a pound of butter while actually melting together. Now, here's my tip. Butter is like ridiculously expensive now, so I buy it when it's on sale, and then I use a vacuum sealer and seal it, and then I stick it in the freezer, so it lasts literally forever. And for chocolate, you heard me talk about this the other day, dollar store. This stuff is amazing. For dollar store chocolate, it is so good, and it is absolutely perfect for this recipe. So I'm gonna chop it up, and we're gonna melt it. Okay, so we got a pound of chocolate and a pound of butter. We're gonna melt that. We're melting it over a double broiler. If you don't know what a double broiler is, basically it is just a saucepan with simmering water in it. So what this does is it stops your chocolate from getting too hot so you don't burn it. While that's melting, we're gonna go ahead and prep our half sheet pan. Yes, this is enormous. Yes, this makes a lot of brownies, but they freeze very well. If you wanna know where to get one of these half sheet pans, the Wholesale Club in Barrie, they have a ton of them, and they're like, I think maybe $20. Oh yeah, this recipe also calls for 6 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. Honey child, I'm not going back to Zare's on a Sunday to go get unsweetened chocolate. That's where you can get it from, but you can also absolutely use just the sweetened chocolate that we've already cut up. Okay, so while our chocolate is melting with the butter, in here I've got 2 1/4 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons of vanilla, 6 extra large eggs, and this over here, my friends, that is instant coffee. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I didn't make you realize you were making coffee flavored brownies. No, child, I'm not. Coffee enhances the flavor of chocolate, and you will not taste that. You will just taste a certain je ne sais quoi that makes your brownies amazing. Okay, so we're gonna mix this together. Make sure you use a spoon or a wooden spoon. Do not use beaters for this because we are not trying to get any air in here. If you get air in here, then you're gonna have a light, fluffy brownie. If you have a light, fluffy brownie, that's called a cake. We want dense, moist, and chewy. Here's my tip for you. Don't be like me and be impatient and use frozen butter to melt. I mean, it'll totally work, but it just takes that much longer. In the meantime, we're gonna mix together 1 1/4 cups of flour and a teaspoon of salt in there and a tablespoon of baking powder. Do yourself a favor, get double acting baking powder. You'll see it written on the front right here, right? Double acting baking powder. What that does is when you mix it initially into your batter, it gives it lift. And then when it hits heat, it gets a second lift. Traditional baking powder, or I should say normal, regular, single baking powder, only does the lift once. So you get a little bit more oomph. Now I forgot to mention, nuts. Supposed to be 3 cups of walnuts in here. I don't have walnuts, I have like mixed nuts. And I'm lazy AF, so I'm going to use my food processor to just blitz them and give them a little bit of a chop, because otherwise they'll just end up all over my kitchen if I manually chop them. Obviously, if you don't like nuts or you're allergic to nuts, don't put them in there. Totally up to you. And if you want different types of nuts, put different nuts in. Chocolate's still melting. Well, actually the chocolate's fully melted. It's the frozen butter that's still melting, but I still have to cut up 12 ounces of chocolate. So this is gonna go into the batter as soon as we're done, or as soon as we're mixing it together. It calls for chocolate chips. I'm not a fan of chocolate chips. I like cutting up chocolate and having big ass chunks in there. So totally up to you. You wanna use chocolate chips, you wanna use white chocolate chips, you wanna use any other kind of chocolate, you do you. Oven preheated to 350. Chocolate's all chopped. Chocolate's finally melted. Now wanna make sure you do not put this hot into here because otherwise you will have chocolate scrambled eggs and it will taste disgusting. So we're just gonna pour this delicious into there and stir. Remember, this is our baking powder, flour, and salt in here. Give it a little mix just so it's all combined. Don't need to be all fancy or use a sifter or anything for it. And then we're gonna toss this into here. Ooh. And then we're gonna put the chocolate in there also, which I can't do with one hand. I guess I can, whatever. It's only me eating them, that's fine. La, 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 la. And then mix. Oh my God, this is so good. Ugh. You can imagine I'm like just eating all this chocolate as we're going along. So now, all mixed, we're gonna put in our 3 cups of nuts. Mine are just mixed nuts. As you can see, I got a little excited with the food processor, but that's all good. And now, it weighs a ton. We're putting this into our butter floured sheet pan. Oh my God. Here, you gotta see what this looks like. Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. And then we're gonna spread it out evenly on here. I look like I'm about to start overflowing over the edges here. Nice and even. This will obviously puff up a little bit, but it's not gonna be like a cake. Oh my God, there's so much chocolate in here. And when it comes to brownies, or really anything when you're baking, if you wanna add more chocolate, add more chocolate. If someone tells you like, oh, you shouldn't put that much chocolate in there, then ghost them, because you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Okay? So now we're gonna take our tray of love over to our oven, which is set at 350. Pop it in, actually middle rack. And we're gonna cook for 20 minutes. Then we're gonna take it out. We're gonna slam the pan to knock out any air, because again, we don't want nice risen puffy brownies. We want dense, moist, and chewy. When it comes to the coffee I talked about earlier, if you don't have instant coffee, don't go buy any. Just use like really strong brewed coffee. Also, the chocolate from the dollar store, I kid you not, man, you have to try it. I used to spend so much money on such expensive chocolate, and I tried that stuff, their holiday bar, and it is... Let's nerd it up for a second. Baking soda, baking powder. A lot of people ask questions about what the difference is between the two. They are two very different things, but they both sort of serve the same purpose. They both serve to rise your food or rise whatever you're baking. Baking soda is a base. So you need to add something with this and to get the lift. So if you were using baking soda, then you need to add vinegar or lemon juice or some sort of acid to make this go psh and fizz. Baking powder already has something in there. It already has an acid, which is usually cream of tartar. If you don't know what cream of tartar is, it is scraped out of the inside of red wine barrels. It's also white powder, just like this. This is not cocaine. This is cream of tartar. So that means when this hits a liquid, this acid reacts with the base, which is baking soda, to give you the... So it's just easier. This is an all-in-one solution. This, you generally have to add something else. You will see recipes where you add both of them to give the extra punch. We'll even do one more, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So here we have baking powder, here we have baking soda. So remember I said this has your acid and your base in it together. So when you add a liquid, you're gonna get fizz. See the fizz? See it? If you just use baking soda where it says you need baking powder, you get nothing. Well, you get a flat cake. You're asking about the sheet pans already. No, you cannot use a cookie sheet. A cookie sheet doesn't have a high enough edge on it. This has an inch edge on it. Cookie sheets are either completely flat with no edge or they have like a little tiny edge. So that ain't gonna work for this. This only. Oh, they is done. Well, to tell if they're done or how to tell if they're done, if you put in a skewer and it comes out clean, like that one, they're done. Now we've got to let this cool for at least an hour before we try to take it out. Always better when you let them sit a little bit longer, but they're still delicious and dense. Nice thing about these is they freeze extremely well, and you can eat them direct from the freezer, frozen.